All right. Thanks, Bill. I think the next segment is realistic price scenarios for VeChain. So this is the VeChain price prediction. I think we might have lost Ian, but we're just going to go right into the next segment. So this is VeChain, some realistic price scenarios for VeChain. So all too often, when the market's going crazy and there's well over 1,000 cryptocurrencies out there, and there's altcoins, there's small caps, there's medium caps, there's high caps, there's Bitcoin. The market's crazy and it's tough to keep track of. Not only that, you get on YouTube and you see headlines that say, Bitcoin going to $2 million by the end of the year, or VeChain going to $7 next month in May. And it can be misleading and it can be very confusing. So the point of this is to create some realistic price scenario models that we can use to try to put some parameters around what is actually realistic versus what is unrealistic in the market. So first, let's just take a look at VeChain's chart. And zoom out and take a look at the trend that's been going on recently. After the pandemic, VeChain has been one of the top performing cryptocurrencies in terms of total returns from the bottom in the pandemic and overall just staying in a very strong uptrend. Now, I do think, and I'm as big of a fan of VeChain as anyone. VeChain is actually probably my favorite project that I don't own, and I wish I owned some, but I did miss a good entry down here in this green band. And what these green bands and these red bands represent is just a channeling trend line over time that easily shows where it's been historically a good time to accumulate VeChain and when it's been a good time to potentially take profits. Now, right now, VeChain is pressing up against its top trend line here. So VeChain does look a little bit overbought, but that's representative of a lot of confidence in the market regarding VeChain. Everybody loves VeChain. So if VeChain is to break out of here, potentially, we could get an entire market that starts to move parabolic. Would I personally be taking some profits here at the very tippy top of this trend line? Yeah, I'd probably be taking a little bit of profits and maybe looking to buy back in lower in an accumulation phase if we break down, right? Taking profits isn't the worst thing in the world. So now let's take a look at VeChain's dominance or VeChain's market share. And we're going to use this to construct several scenarios that we can extrapolate some price predictions for this market cycle for VeChain. Now, obviously, we had a huge run up for VeChain's price after it launched. Shortly after 2018, we were 2,300% overvalued against this linear trend line on a logarithmic view. That just means that VeChain's price, as far as this trend line goes, has been growing exponentially. Now, occasionally we get bubbles up above this trend line where we become overvalued against the trend line. Sometimes we actually dip below this trend line and we have periods of good accumulation periods where VeChain is undervalued against the rest of the market. So we had 135% overvaluation and a 200% overvaluation back in mid-2020, right? So based off of this trend line, we can construct 4 market dominance scenarios that I think are somewhat realistic, right? So what happens if VeChain's dominance actually drops below this trend line again? That would be a scenario of about 0.25% market dominance. Now, what if it keeps up with relatively where it's at right now at about 0.44% market dominance? That means out of the total cryptocurrency market cap, VeChain makes up about give or take 0.44%, right? So that's just under 0.5%. So that's going to be our second scenario. Now we are on a bullish trend line and we are already overvalued against this trend line. So if this trend can continue and VeChain can push higher to either 0.75 or 1% market dominance, I do think that is realistic. Not only that, I think VeChain's fundamentals are sound and there's a lot of excitement about VeChain in the market. Now, what this purple line represents is, all right, let's just say if by July, VeChain did see another 200% overvaluation against its trend line, where would that put us? And would that be realistic? So it's kind of just a gut check of whether or not these market dominance scenarios are even realistic. And that would put us at a 0.89% market dominance, which is pretty much in the middle of 1.0% and 0.75%. So that tells me, as a gut check, these are realistic price scenarios based off of historic data in market dominance. So now let's take a look at total cryptocurrency market cap. Total cryptocurrency market cap has been on a linear trend line, again on a logarithmic view. That means the total cryptocurrency space going all the way back to 2014 has been moving up exponentially. Now, occasionally we get these big bull markets. 2013, 2014, we were 1,600% overvalued against this trend line. Back in 2017 and 2018, 2,600%. This is when Bitcoin peaked at $19,700. And now, most recently, we've been on a trajectory headed towards a $5 trillion total cryptocurrency market cap by sometime in July. Now, obviously, we could have a down month. We could have a red month that sets us backwards, sets us back a little bit, but we've been holding this trend line towards $5 trillion in total cryptocurrency market cap by July fairly strong. And we've also got this trajectory headed out towards the end of the year, towards end of Q3, beginning of Q4, maybe October or November, where if we don't get a nasty correction and we can continue this trajectory like we had a huge trajectory back in previous market cycles, we could see maybe a maximum scenario of $10 trillion this market cycle. That would be a 1,400% overvaluation against this trend line. Again, another gut check that we can compare to previous data and say, well, that's probably our most bullish scenario is probably realistic, and it could happen. Now, we also have a more bearish scenario of, maybe some bad news comes out. Maybe, we pop up here and we run into some macroeconomic factors that slow down the market. So we've also built in this $3 trillion scenario as well. Hopefully we will pass that in the near future. All right, so if we multiply out our market dominance scenarios by our total cryptocurrency market cap scenarios, we can create a scenario model matrix of potential price predictions for VeChain, right? So our most bearish scenario, or our bottom parameter, and these are the outlier scenarios, right? These don't necessarily mean that it's the most likely scenario. It's just a possible scenario. So the lowest possible scenario for VeChain, we've already crossed over. VeChain's trading at 14 cents today. So in order for us to actually go back down to 12 cents by the time the market peaks, we'd be at a $3 trillion market cap. But our market dominance for VeChain would have dropped to 0.25%. The more bearish scenario, undervalued against the market dominance trend line for VeChain. Now, our most bullish scenario would require a $10 trillion total cryptocurrency market cap. So our most bullish scenario for the total cryptocurrency market cap. And then our most bullish scenario where VeChain almost or more than doubles in market dominance or market share over the next several months and outperforms the rest of the cryptocurrency market by a factor of 2. Right, and that would put VeChain's price at a very bullish scenario of $1.54, over 10x from where it's at right now. Do I think this is the most likely scenario, or do I even think that this is likely? No, I think it's more probable that we see something in the middle here, right? And before we go to my personal prediction, and feel free to draw your own conclusions from this chart or from this table, I've also included a chart. Some people prefer charts, I prefer tables, but we've just got our different scenarios, the same data we were just looking at. We've got our $10 trillion total cryptocurrency market cap scenario in green, our $5 trillion scenario in yellow, and our $3 trillion scenario in red, with our corresponding VeChain market dominance scenarios on the bottom here. So if you had to ask me personally, what do I think is realistic for VeChain this market cycle? Well, I think this 58-cent scenario, and keep in mind, VeChain's only trading at 14 cents right now. So this isn't like a very bearish prediction. This isn't like a moonshot prediction, but it's not bearish on VeChain at all. I'm actually quite bullish on VeChain. So realistically, I think we could get a 3 to 4x from here out of VeChain. Now, a bearish scenario would be that we, continue on this trend, but maybe we don't get the total cryptocurrency market cap of 5 or 10 trillion that we're really looking for. And that might leave VeChain somewhere around 23 cents. And on the more bullish side, 77 cents. Now, I know we have two scenarios here over $1, and I do think those are possible. But for me, I think the most bullish scenario would be 77 cents if we really want to level ourselves. All right, thanks. That's the VeChain scenario matrix. I hope that's helpful.
Token Metrics is a cryptocurrency investment platform that helps users leverage machine learning to become better crypto investors. Our in-depth analysis helps eliminate the emotions of investing, find profitable investment opportunities, and filters out scams. Learn more at tokenmetrics.com.